today is JJ Jones, and he's the Executive Director of the National Institute of Animal Agriculture. And he's going to talk about a NADPRP project that they've been working on to enhance collaboration within and on NADPRP projects. And let's see, go ahead, JJ. We are recording this meeting.
Wonderful. Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon if anybody happens to be. I guess it would be outside of the U.S. if it's afternoon. But thank you again, Cheryl, for inviting us to participate. I see many familiar names and faces, and many of you, I believe, are familiar with this project. But for those of you that this may be new or it's been a while since you've heard about our particular collaboration with Missy and her team at USDA, I won't read the whole purpose to you. You can see it there on the screen, but there's a few things. Our organization, NIAA, is really about convening interdisciplinary leaders throughout animal agriculture. And so our Animal Disease Issues and Emergency Management Council saw an opportunity to really make sure that we're aggregating knowledge, insights, and applicable learnings from a variety of NADPRP projects and programs. And our first area of focus is in the biosecurity space. So please keep that in mind. And then we not only obviously wanted to engage with those organizations who had received NADPRP funding for various biosecurity projects and programs, but also our general animal agriculture stakeholders. So farmers and ranchers and veterinarians and allied industry and others who obviously have an interest in animal disease preparedness and response programs related to biosecurity, but may not be directly involved. So what I'm going to walk through first is some survey results that we found, and then that informed a convening we held during our annual conference in April, where we brought together several folks on this call, as well as others from our membership and the USAHA membership and other organizations, to walk through these survey results and then have a roundtable conversation about how we could all be working more closely together and collaborating again on our knowledge, our insights, and then maybe from my perspective, most importantly, how do we apply the information or the tools and resources that are developed. So we'll do that. And then we have a few other activities that are part of our project under this NADPRP program that we'd love to make sure you're aware of so you can keep track of those or participate as you'd like. So if I get the right screen moving here. So first, the awardee survey results. So when we asked organizations that had been awarded a project somewhere in between fiscal year 2020 and 2023, and then also we included 2024, you'll see that we had a nice spread of organizations that participated, and we had some organizations that only participated in 1 year, and then obviously many who participated over several years. When we looked at the various areas, while we were focused on biosecurity projects, we had a nice blend of organizations who have had awarded projects that cover not only biosecurity, but several of the other areas that NADPRP focuses on. So we took that as a positive because it means, yes, we're getting insights about biosecurity projects, but obviously people are bringing other experiences from other projects to their feedback and responses as well. Because we were looking at collaboration, we wanted to identify, are there organizations that are already collaborating? So it was just shy of 3/4 of respondents, and this was statistically significant for the number of awardees over this time period. They did say, yes, we do look for other collaborators, and we'll talk about what that looks like here in just a few moments. But then we have just over 1/4 who are organizations that maybe are going about a project on their own as a single entity. And so we also wanted to learn from them why that might be the case or where there might be opportunities either in actual execution of projects or especially in dissemination of information or sharing of information, we can increase collaboration. So then we were interested too in terms of, we know there are many types of organizations and entities who are eligible for NADPRP funding and to execute projects. And so as you'll see there on the pie chart in front of you, when we think about who organizations are working with, a variety work, especially with academia or state departments of agriculture. And then we start to see a significant number also with industry stakeholder organizations, whether they're from public health, maybe it's a private organization or a veterinarian association, etc., specific livestock associations, and then there are a small percentage that work with federal and tribal governments and entities. So this survey was also very heavy on open-ended questions, and we really tried to aggregate and combine various points of feedback when we said, well, what worked well in working with other organizations? We saw that the collaboration and partnerships, obviously strengthening relationships outside of their organization. So, tapping into different people's subject matter expertise or networks. Obviously, in stakeholder engagement and communication, especially those that worked with private sector partners, it really allowed for industry support, not only in applying for the grants, but in many cases, then disseminating information that came out of the projects. And then, of course, collaborating on funding or resource and personnel needs, etc. So, for example, if there's specialized knowledge that needs to be brought into a project, or there's specialized equipment or other resources that need to be obtained, obviously, we saw, I shouldn't say obviously, but we saw survey respondents indicating that collaborations worked well there. When we said, well, how could we improve collaboration? And this is where we wanted to see what people were thinking about moving forward. One area is really how do we foster an environment where people are aware of what other organizations or groups of organizations might be focused on so that we could see are there opportunities for similar or like projects to collaborate, whether it's on the full project in itself or at least being purposefully complementary to one another through the actual work being done or the resources being used. And this could also then encourage collaboration in the funding priorities. Something that came out, and to me, this was a timing issue, was also the transparency and information sharing. So when we have this survey in the field, it was just as USDA was releasing, the dashboard of NADPRP projects. So I'll put a shameless plug in for Missy. If you haven't already been on the NADPRP website and seen the dashboard, that is the first step in already achieving what many of you who responded as awardees shared with us, that you want to be able to see where are projects funded, what species are being focused on, what areas of animal disease preparedness and emergency response are being addressed. And while there's top line information on that dashboard, there is then the opportunity for us to follow up with one another and determine where can we, again, enhance or build upon each other's work or collaborate on future work. One piece of feedback also talked about many times the projects are designed in a way where there's a specific start and end time, but is there a way for us all to work together more closely to ensure post-funding continuity of projects and resources? So, for example, if there are infographics or educational tools and resources that are developed, how can those be updated on a regular basis so they're not just current during the funding cycle, but live on in evergreen content, if you will? However, we also were able to see that there's challenges with collaboration. So when we have a competitive funding process, it may discourage the open sharing of ideas. There's also an administrative burden that we need to find ways to overcome so that if you're not the lead organization, it may be difficult to fully seek reimbursement, or if you are the lead organization, you have extra duties to ensure the full collaboration of everyone who's participating. Overall, though, we saw that most organizations said that their projects are either very successful or they're still ongoing. So it's telling us and we've seen other surveys from other organizations as well as the NADPRP program that do indicate that there's still very high value in this program and the subsequent projects that are funded. And then when we asked people, well, why did you deem your project successful or very successful? We wanted to see where people saw, again, either items we need to continue, if you will, or areas that we may have room for improvement. So I won't read through those. Spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about a white paper where this is all more detailed. So if you aren't reading through as well, you can also check it out there. We wanted to also see, well, how could we better share biosecurity deliverables with animal agriculture and the overall food system? And so again, thinking about, is there a space? And there is a resource tab on the NADPRP website where any recorded webinars or materials can be housed. So again, if folks are looking for that information, we can make sure they know that they can go there to find that information. We also need to continue to make sure that industry meetings, extension programs, other convenings of not just animal disease preparedness and emergency response personnel, but others throughout animal agriculture and the food system are present. So we want to make sure we're getting to audiences we don't traditionally reach, as well as finding more focused or practical real world biosecurity solutions. So many times we may have a research project that is very theoretical or has applicability, but are we communicating that in a way where it can be readily utilized by a variety of audiences? And again, not just those who have a specialized expertise or background knowledge. And then we had additional comments. So in the sake of time, then we also, as I mentioned, not only wanted to touch base with actual organizations and individuals who have been awarded NADPRP funding to lead biosecurity projects, but also those who had not been directly involved in managing a NADPRP biosecurity project, but still were a stakeholder in the space. The good news is many people, again, we had a robust response from our outreach to various stakeholders, but over three-quarters, nearly just 85% are familiar with the animal disease preparedness and response program. So obviously, though, there's still that 15% that said they were not. So that does give us a goal to increase the awareness of the program. And then as you'll see too, how people shared in terms of their familiarity with the program. So only 17% said they were very familiar. Over 50% said somewhat familiar. And then there is that 21% or so 23%, nearly a quarter of respondents who said they're familiar with NADPRP did say they're not very familiar or not familiar at all. So again, an opportunity to really increase people's knowledge of NADPRP projects and the resources and tools that come out of the projects. Again, we wanted to see what areas of NADPRP respondents or stakeholders were familiar with. Biosecurity does tend to be top of mind, not only for awardee organizations, but also for stakeholders. But then you'll see there's a nice distribution throughout the various focus areas. We wanted to see where are people learning about NADPRP projects that they're familiar with. So 31% said they were a participant in a NADPRP program. Maybe that was they reviewed a NADPRP funding projects or they were a collaborator of some sort. They weren't a lead organization or a funded organization, but they were a participant. Then you have nearly a quarter that said it was throughout their network. So maybe their colleague or their place of employment shared information about it. And then it started to go to associations. So obviously animal agriculture and other trade and professional associations. And then we started to see it go from USDA communications itself or conference and meetings and other spaces that were across the board or the gamut. So a nice distribution of where people are finding information, and to us does bolster the need for collaboration and cross communication. Again, we were asking, have you previously participated with a NADPRP awardee or collaborated with, excuse me, a NADPRP awardee organization? So not quite 50-50, a little less than half said yes. The majority said no, they had not directly collaborated. So, and as we'll talk about later, there are desires for stronger collaboration. So I think those of us who have managed or continue to manage NADPRP projects, it shows that there's still interest from various stakeholders to be engaged. And then we did ask, well, which organizations you collaborated with and what that looked like. So nearly a third said it was through a state government agency. Then you went to academia and associations from there, and then on down to national and private organizations. To me, this is very positive that people, all respondents said they either were somewhat willing or very willing to collaborate with NADPRP awardees in the future. So it shows that the program has a good track record of collaboration. It has a good reputation when it does collaborate with various other organizations and entities. So we need to continue to do that. And then again, some of our open-ended questions where we were looking to see, well, why did you choose that you're willing to participate? You can see they want to see those strong relationships being built between industry, government, and academia. They want to make sure that they can apply the insights to continue business continuity, and then also protecting the national food supply and security. And then, of course, thinking about how can they apply the information so it doesn't disrupt their normal operations, or making sure that they're seeing where the projects can align across disciplines or species or sectors of the value chain. We have several feedback points in terms of opportunities or benefits that they see for collaborating in the future. Again, I won't read these to you, but it was very promising to us that, and many of you who've done surveys know this, that anytime you have an open-ended question, it's very promising that when people take the time to not just provide a one-word answer or they skip that question, but they do provide some detailed information or thoughts on their feedback. And then, of course, we want to see, well, what drawbacks or challenges are you seeing? And so we were able to see where there may be hurdles that we as NADPRP awardee organizations need to think about when we're applying and building our programs or our schedules and our engagement plans, etc. There were several comments and threads of themes, if you will, on improving collaboration within animal agriculture. So everything from how do we share more information between awardees, but also throughout the information. Where do we create that centralized portal? And just on cue, Missy has just put the dashboard link in the chat. So if you haven't seen that yet, you can go there. And then as we looked at stakeholders, we wanted to see where they were coming from. Were we heavy in just one sector? Again, as you can start to see, we had a variety of organizations who, again, had not been awardees, but were stakeholders. It's everything farmers and ranchers or a producer to researchers at the university or college or contract research organizations who haven't been involved. Obviously, state animal health officials, veterinarians in private practice, allied industry, whether that's animal health or nutrition or various service providers, and then a significant group did choose other. However, I will put the caveat on there when you started to look at the actual titles. Many of them did fit in a broader category. They simply wanted to provide more specificity about exactly what type of private veterinarian they were, or exactly what type of producer or what allied industry company or organization they worked for. So I'll wrap up by saying, like many of you, our project is over a 2-year time period. So we do have the white paper that we just finished after our roundtable annual conference this past spring. So that is available with not only the full survey findings, but also the feedback from many of you who were part of those roundtable conversations and NIAA members that have an interest in animal disease issues and emergency management preparedness. So please reach out to Morgan if you would like to get a copy of that white paper. And then we do want to also, just like USAHA continue, and you host this regular meeting, we do have some convenings coming up where we will continue to look for opportunities for collaboration and explore further, especially where we can facilitate potential opportunities for collaboration on future NADPRP projects and activities, and then also help showcase. So we have the dashboard, but our Animal Disease Issues and Emergency Management Council plans to make sure that there's opportunities, and this came directly out of the roundtable conversations, to showcase what folks are doing in a space at NIA Annual Conference next April. So with that, I will pause and see if I've left any time for questions. And then also, here's my contact information if I can ever answer any additional questions or be of assistance. But with that, I will stop sharing so I can see everyone and also open up the chat to see if there are questions there or if Cheryl, I'll follow your lead.
Okay, any questions for JJ? You can either put them in the chat or go ahead and raise your hands. We've got a couple of minutes here. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next speaker. And if you think of something, go ahead and put it in the chat. I put Morgan Young's contact in there in case you want to get a copy of the white paper that they've just completed. So with that, I think we'll move on to the next presenter, and then JJ, if you want to monitor the chat and go ahead and respond that way, that would be great.
Will do. Thank you everyone for a bit of your time today.
Yeah, thank you.